Silicon Valley, tech entrepreneurs, they like to look to the future a lot. And some of them do understand how important it is to look at the past, and some of them don't. And what I have found is that because the actual brain system involves memory, it involves history, it involves self-reflection of your own life, there's a way in which looking at history externally mirrors the experience our brain does internally. Mark Twain has this wonderful line. He said, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme." And the idea is that things don't happen exactly the way they did before, but they have a lot of correlation. And the reason is because whether the year was 1760, 1560, or 1960, it's still people involved. And we haven't really changed all that much. Sometimes if you're looking at a situation that you're in and you can't seem to find the breakthrough concept you need, you can't seem to find the way out or the way forward, it can be incredibly helpful to look at a historical corollary. So let me give you an example of what this means. So during the Arab Spring, nobody really knew what was going to happen. It just seemed unprecedented, especially for the Arab world, and people were very hopeful, but also skittish, like what might happen. And the fascinating thing is that if you look at the revolutions of 1848 in Europe and you look at the descriptions, it's eerily similar. In fact, if you juxtapose the descriptions in Wikipedia between the revolutions of 1848 and the Arab Spring, if you change the dates and names, you can almost just match them up. And in both, you had situations where students and the liberals banded together to push back on what they felt was an elite that was out of touch. This was driven by the newfound technological breakthrough of industrialization, as opposed to the Arab Spring, where it was the digital revolution. And they pushed back, but it was very ad hoc. There was no plan to it. It happened in multiple countries, but there's no communication. And eventually, or very quickly, depending, the reactionary forces of the king, the aristocracy, the workers, the peasants, they came back and restored order, which is exactly what happened in the Arab Spring. It's the same thing that happened in 1848. And so if you look at your situation right now, whatever it is you're working on, and whatever the industry you're working on, so whether you're trying to reduce poverty, bring better health care, whether you're trying to create greater equality for women or get girls into school, whatever the case may be, you can always look for a historical corollary, whether that's if you're trying to get people into more girls into school, let's say. Well, what was it like when Europe first tried to educate girls? What was it like when America tried to desegregate and bring African Americans into schools? You can look at historical situations that were similar and look at what happened. And that can very often give you a new perspective and a new frame on what's going on right now for you. You're just looking quickly, so i.e. the thing that takes time is finding the corollary. So the important thing to do is really define the area that you work in right now, and then figure out what is that historical corollary. And then you can literally just like Wikipedia or Google for something historical around that and see what pops up. But 10, 15 minutes at a time, you can go down a rabbit hole if you want. I'm not gonna stop you. All sorts of things might pop out of that, but it doesn't take a long time at all. The power of the historical mirror is in two places. The first is it might actually show you a map to your road forward, or a map of the things that might go wrong because someone's tried this before, and that can help you with your strategy, with your planning. The other way it's very powerful, though, is it gives you a frame to start looking for patterns in the world around you, and those patterns very often are where we then find new solutions. So it's working on both of those levels.
One cool thing about getting good with historical mirrors is that it helps you explain your ideas to people. And this is why you see so many projects that are pitched like, it's like Airbnb 4, or it's like Uber 4. What we're trying to do is help the person who's listening to us find a historical mirror for what we're doing, because it's really hard to explain our idea. However, it's like Uber 4 is a really crappy historical mirror. So if you can find a better one that helps the person understand what you're doing in metaphor, you're empowering them to understand and communicate your idea to other people. So take like Patreon, it's like an online way to support people that create content. I could say it's like Kickstarter with a subscription model, or I could say it's the busker's hat put online. Anybody who's given money to a busker will understand the historical pattern.
When we invent new sciences, so when people were first doing quantum mechanics at the start of the 20th century, those were new ideas. But breakthroughs and innovations are not about the idea itself being new. They're about the idea being applied or implemented in a way to create a new effect. It's not about, I've just thought of something no one has ever thought of. That happens, that's great, God bless, but you don't shoot for it because you can't make that happen. But when you can take an idea and apply it somewhere it has not been applied, and thus create a new outcome, that is a breakthrough idea.